Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Kes here, back in another video. Hope everyone's well wherever you are. Just took a bit of a break before I got around to part 3, so I got a message up on my screen there. I think it's one of those things that warns you just so you buy a security thing or whatever. Tries to give you a warning or whatever just so you buy that software thing. But I wonder what you think about this picture. I won that as a raffle for this Halloween filmmakers thing I went to, so I'm hoping to sell it. I've got ahead of myself there, but I was going to leave it there and see if people ask about it. I've told you already, but yeah, so it's, if you can see it very well, but it's Batman and Catwoman. But yeah, I wanted a prize, but I'd love to sell it to the highest bidder and then give that money to charity or whatever. But I hope I can get lots of money. But I don't know if I should have a certain date where I say if I sell it by this date or whatever, or I want to sell it by this date. So see if it can sell. I mean, someone, I don't know if this was actually real, but I think they had a sword for a samurai sword. They were dressed as a character, and they jokingly said, "I'll get you like John Wick. I'll kill you like John Wick," or whatever. And then they said, so it doesn't end well for John Wick. I haven't seen the film, so I can't really say, but spoiler alert. So, for anyone who might have seen it. I don't really watch many films, but I'm interested in making a film. Anyway, back to Celtic, sorry. Going way off in tangents. But yeah, I'd love to sell that to the highest bidder or whatever. And then give the money to charity. But I'd love to know what you think. Anyone who like collects Batman stuff and all that, like memorabilia. Yeah, I'd sell it to the highest bidder, as I say. But moving back to the topic at hand, sorry. Here goes. These are pointers number 21 to 30. And I suppose I did review the game in part 2, so I don't think I'll say too much about the game. I'd love to know what neutrals think. If they look back at some of the key decisions, it was an event-packed game. I suppose it pretty much always is when it's a cup game, especially a derby game and vice versa, or whatever, especially between Celtic and Rangers. As I say, never a dull moment and all that kind of thing, and a lot was riding on this. But yeah, here goes. So these are pointers number 21 to 30. Normally I'm really cold, but this room I'm feeling pretty warm. I think it's fake, but I've got an Intermilan top, funny enough, under this. Funny enough, I was wearing an Intermilan cap in the last one, but actually I think this is actually from Milan itself, but I don't know if it's real or not. Anyway, sorry. Here goes. So number 21, saying 21 again. I often say, like, I pretty much always say 21 again. So I hope that Celtic can stay top and ensure that Rangers never win any trophies, hopefully, and Celtic keep winning trophies, ideally. But I suppose as long as we stay at least one trophy ahead of them, that mob, then that's all that really counts. You know, one trophy ahead of them in terms of top level trophies. I suppose they'll have to count their lower league trophies or whatever, but don't want to give them ideas. But in the future, I'd love to react to this game that happened. I was going to say technically yesterday, but it is still today. But yeah, so it was nearly a really bad day, and it turned into a really good day, as well as seeing my dad for the first time in ages. Celtic managed to see it through, and I thought we were going to lose for a long time. So I'll drink that, as I say. But something else, because I'm trying to wake my brain up again. I'm trying to also remember if there was any incidents in the game that I might have forgotten. But if you check out part 2, please let me know if there's any incidents that happened in the game that I forgot or whatever. And to recall what you thought of the game. I'd love to know from Celtic supporters, like the player ratings or that, and even Rangers supporters. Rangers supporters want to get involved as well. I prefer to be able to be polite, but you can post whatever you want. But one thing I was trying to remember is trying to remember my chain of thought or whatever. I remember something, which is that in the I meant to say part 2. So I wonder if there could be a consortium that invests in the club and that kind of thing. And the supporters say they don't want the supporters say they want the board out, so I'd love to know what the supporters think, or have an opinion poll, because some supporters might be happy with the board and feel that some certain fans and supporters, or whatever, fans / supporters, are overreacting and a bit spoiled or whatever, especially younger ones. So it'd be interesting to hear what different Celtic supporters think, and like have a range of different views. Hopefully we won't go back to the 90s when Celtic was struggling. So hopefully we stay on top and make sure we don't let it slip. Don't let our either the top of winning trophies at the moment. Like, don't let that slip and go back to the dark days, so to speak. My first love, football-wise, was Italian football. So I'd love to see Italian football get back to the top. That's another thing I was thinking of. I know some older supporters say that, so we should be appreciative or whatever. We should be happy with the results, and some might call them happy clappers. I'm quite old myself. I feel quite old as well. And, I'm pretty old, unfortunately. But yeah, I guess we should appreciate these times, but make sure we don't get complacent, because just like we got ahead of them, I guess they could do the same, heaven forbid, the other way around. So I'd love for us to keep going, keep the momentum and that kind of thing. But moving on to number 22, as I say, I wonder if a consortium could come in. I wonder what Celtic supporters think of, what Celtic supporters think, and most importantly, what Celtic supporters want, and how can the club connect with the supporters and ask questions to supporters. I suppose supporters could always get involved in posting comments on YouTube, but they might say, I suppose you could argue, like, I wonder how many of those comments the board actually read, if any. And I suppose with so many comments, they're certainly not going to be able to read all of them. And they may not even take any time to read any of them. But it'd be great to have sort of a forum and opinion polls and things like that, where supporters can connect with the board and with the club and say, these are the sort of things we want, these are the sort of players we want to be brought in, this is how much money they would cost and we can afford it, or whatever, and that kind of thing. So I'd say I wonder if a consortium could buy out the club, like, consisting of supporters, especially celebrity supporters. And also, for me personally, I'd love to see wealthy owners. Now, lots of Celtic supporters wouldn't want to see that, but it would be interesting to get different views. Some would say we don't want wealthy Arab sheikhs to buy the club, and that spending that money would not necessarily guarantee success, although in Scotland I'm sure it would. And also in the future, like falling foul of FFP. So what I think is, like, what if a consortium could come together and say, these are our 5 to 10 year plans for the future, or future plans more generally, or both of those things, 5 to 10 or even 15 or 20 years, or whatever. The world's still around in that much time. But these are the things we hope to achieve, and this is how we hope to achieve it by, and this is how we hope to ensure we stick to the law. And working with FIFA and UEFA, could say, like, we're going to ensure that we have continued and ongoing success, so short and long term. But a lot of supporters want to get rid of the board, as I say, and then they want the club to spend money. But at the same time, I think they really should think about, like, the supporters themselves would not have the money to spend, even if they wanted to, more than likely. So to buy out the board might not be feasible. And even if the board said, okay, we'll sell it to the supporters, it doesn't mean that the supporters trust, or supporters generally would be able to afford the players who will be at the club. So I think if the supporters don't want a wealthy Arab sheikh or whatever, or wealthy people generally and investors to invest in the club, like I do, and some of our supporters might want, then I guess I'd love to know what Celtic supporters want, basically, and I hope to ask that in the future, looking into the future. But if a consortium or any sort of buyout or any sort of investors, sponsors and whatnot, and that kind of thing came out and said, we're going to spend this much, and we're going to ensure, again, that we stick to the law so we don't fall foul of FFP, and we continue with short and long-term success, I don't know why supporters wouldn't want to welcome that. And I know some supporters might say it's more than just the club, and it's a unique club, and it started off as a charity and it gives to charity, and that's not what the club stands for, and more left-wing support might not want that. But again, if they want success in Europe, that's what they're going to have. If they can't, I suppose the saying is you can't have cake and eat it. So you've got to make up your mind as to whether you want to do well in Europe or not. And I don't think any clubs without the money and that investment, I know you can have players with heart, without the quality players can actually consistently do well in Europe, or even do well at all in Europe. The most successful teams normally have money, whether that's Man City, PSG, or even Inter Milan getting close, or whatever teams normally have money, unlike Celtic. So a big, wealthy supporter could actually help with that kind of thing. Sorry, for some reason my head's really itchy. But yeah, so I'd love to know what Celtic supporters want, and what solution do Celtic supporters propose. And again, I'd love to have like opinion polls. If I knew how to put an opinion poll on YouTube, I would run one of those polls. But I'm a bit tech illiterate, so I wouldn't know how to do that. I'm not very literate when it comes to tech, or even generally. But yeah, I'd love to know from Celtic supporters, like, engage some opinions on, like, and some ideas on, like, and advice or whatever on advising the club, like what could be done, what are some sort of ownership structures and investments that Celtic supporters would want to see, and what would make you welcome a new owner. Again, is it something that they could say 5 to 10 years or whatever, or the future generally is what we achieve in the short term and long term, or is it something else? And I suppose you could argue, even if a new owner, a new ownership model, and a new board and whatever comes in, it doesn't mean that they're going to, even if they promise that within 5 or 10 years this is what we hope to achieve and this is how we hope to do it, or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to stick to their word. But I guess you can only test it and see what happens. But moving on, number 23, I was thinking at one point I probably should have waited till point number 23 to say about the consumer idea about a consortium taking over, consisting of supporters, especially wealthy supporters, celebrity supporters, and possibly wealthy owners. I'd love for as many investors around the world as possible to invest in the club. And I think it'd be funny if, like, some of the investors and sponsors into the rankers, as I call them, as I said before, would actually drop their sponsorship and investment in the Rangers and the rankers, and instead spend that on Celtic. I think that'd be pretty amazing if they lost their sponsorship. I mean, that would be pretty amazing, and it would be something that would probably make other investors lose their confidence in them, in the Rangers, in the rankers, as I say. Right, was that thing? But, so that would be really cool, I think. But as I say, that this picture that I won in a prize, I would love to donate it to. I would love to sell it and donate any profits to maybe like the Celtic Foundation or something like that. And someone said to me when I said that, like, I'd love to auction it. They said, "What's your start bid?" And I was like, £1 million. But I may dream. But I said I'd love to get millions for it. And someone said, the person who was running it, the show, whatever, the Halloween show, whatever, said you'd be lucky to get about tenner for that in 50 years. But hopefully, people who are collectors of Batman will like that picture. I'd be happy to sign or initial it at the back, like MKS, not that famous one, unfortunately, but for better or worse or whatever. But I'd be happy to sign and stroke or initial it, whatever, like M.K.S. and stroke or my actual signature. But yeah, I'd love to auction it and fundraise for Celtic. And I almost forgot to say about, or I've just thought about this actually, but well, maybe I did think about it before. But anyway, either way, I've either remembered this idea or just thought. I think when I was walking to the pub to watch the game, I actually thought about this all those hours ago. It feels like years ago. But I was thinking, like, with the Celtic Foundation, what if they supported like business hubs and tech hubs? I know I mentioned that kind of briefly in part 2. Sorry, my words, but mixing my words up, my emphasis, or whatever. But I wonder if the Celtic Foundation could sort of donate to help minorities, members of the black community, POC, people of colour, Irish people of Irish descent, marginalised or disadvantaged people. Some people use the term marginalised. I'm not too sure if that's a term I'm that keen on, but disadvantaged, marginalised, or whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call such groups or whatever, people with neurodiverse conditions and members of the black community, and maybe even Native Americans in America. I would love for the club to fundraise for all those groups and like create business hubs, entertainment hubs, football centres, football pitches, 5-a-side pitches, 7-a-side pitches, especially 5, 6, and especially 7-a-side pitches, and things like that, academies and whatever, and opportunities for more people to get into more academies, more spaces. So sponsors could even help Celtic to have like places and spaces for playing and practicing football, spaces and places for sport, soccer, or whatever you call it, and that kind of thing, and help young people in Glasgow and across the world. Obviously, where Celtic is based, but also even in Dublin and across Ireland, and also across Latin America, Asia, Africa, Australasia, helping Aboriginals, Torres Straits Islanders, and Maoris, helping such communities get into sport, helping in business and in tech hubs, places where people can learn about STEM and things like that, and all those sorts of things. So I love for the club to have more money, and that's the thing. If we do get wealthy owners, again, people might say it's not what the club stands for. It stands for the underdog and the disadvantaged and downtrodden, and it's actually started off as a charity and all these sorts of things. But actually, if you look at it, it could hopefully guarantee us more success on the pitch, all being well, as much as possible, and also with more investment, especially if we give 10% of our revenue away, which I dream we will to things like I've just talked about, like those business, enterprise, and tech hubs and things like that, training centres, soccer pitches, and things like that. Even getting Native Americans and Aboriginals into soccer and that kind of thing. We could do a lot of good with the investment. Again, another thing is I talk about a lot is like if the club gave away whatever prize money I think we got prize money for winning today, because I think even just for winning a game, probably not a huge amount, especially in football terms, but I'd have to double check. I think it's like £500 or £1,000 or something like that. Could be wrong. So in Scotland, I know it's low levels, but if we get into the final and that kind of thing, and if we win it, we get prize money, of course. But certainly, obviously, if we win it, but giving that prize money away to good causes, we could even give people in Africa more access to PCs. We could help with electricity access, internet access, and all sorts of things like that, which could help African countries to develop. We could help the black community in the UK, and all these great things. I'd love to what Celtic supports. We'd like to see the foundation doing, having more money. So if like the PIF, Qatar, and others invest in the club, as well as like supporters, including celebrity supporters like Rod Stewart, Snoop Dogg, and many others, it would mean we would have more money to not only to develop the club and buy better players, invest in the youth and the academies and that kind of thing, and promote the club around the world, which would benefit the club, but would also be able to help things like helping Jamaica to rebuild, Native Americans, Aboriginals, Torres Straits Islanders, Maoris, POC generally, minority communities in the UK, and also or even all around the world, people in Glasgow who have disadvantage and that kind of thing. So more money the club has, including for the foundation, more it can do all those great things. Ideally, I would love for everyone to have a home, shelter, drinks, food, clean water, access to all those things. Even though I don't like to drink water myself, but at least having access to those things. And obviously a lot of people do appreciate water because it sustains them, whatever. And refreshes and nourishes them. But on that note, moving on, number 24, I'd love for the club, I've mentioned in the past, and I'm going to mention again, I would love for the club to work with like Plaid Cymru, wow, we pronounce them in Wales, the SNP, Scotland, Fianna Fáil, I think in Northern Ireland or not Ireland, and basically Celtic and Gaelic political parties, politicians and groups and that kind of thing, across Britain and all over the world and that kind of thing. The Scottish Irish, given the roots of the club and all that kind of thing, I think would be quite fitting given that the club is in Scotland and have Irish roots. So hopefully you can connect with the Scotch Irish in America and that kind of thing. So I'd love to see supports all over the world, but also the club, as I say, being able to do lots of good things for people, not just in Scotland, not just in Glasgow or even just in Scotland or even just in the UK, but all over the world. And again, hopefully benefiting hopefully benefiting whilst helping others. Number 25. I also mentioned in the past how I'd love for republics to support Celtic. I mentioned it in videos, at least on Facebook, if not on YouTube. But unfortunately, obviously, my profile being taken down. I hope there's a copy of those somewhere. So I mentioned like who to me should support Celtic, and I'd love for Republicans, people who support republics, to support Celtic, and republics around the world support Celtic, anti-imperialists and that kind of thing, which I hope to come to jump ahead of myself. And also, again, at the same time, for the club to fund like 5, 6, and even 7-a-side soccer pitches in those countries, in republics and things like that. And so yeah, I'd love for people who support republics and countries that are republics and that kind of thing to support Celtic, and at the same time, well, that's financially and as fans, and at the same time for the club to benefit those countries and have academies in places like China, India, the US, Argentina, Brazil, and all over the world, but especially, as I say, in republics. And number 26, similar for former colonies and also anti-imperialists. One of the main reasons, if not the main reason actually, but it's the main reason why I support Celtic, is because I'm an anti-imperialist. Another thing I talked about recently is every time I mentioned, and I had for those who might not have seen that video, I mentioned when I had like this mug that one of my sisters got me, which says, I've been called many things in life, but Michael is the best one I respond to, or whatever, one I respond to best, or whatever. And I was thinking I'd change my name to Michael. I would love to give to your chosen charity. Thank you. But every time someone, like, I was thinking each time someone swears or smokes, or maybe, yeah, each time they swear or smoke or drink alcohol, I'm not sure it would work with drugs or whatever, or each time someone does something bad, commits an offence, or each time someone distracts me, calls me, or whatever, and that kind of thing. But this, I think, would be fair to be done for everyone. I was thinking that I would have a collection pot if I could, if I had the spine to do it. And I say, you called me, I have to put about £7 in there, and I'd collect it and I would donate it to like things like the Celtic Foundation, and also like say in November, neurodivergent people, and like business hubs to help neurodiverse people to learn about business and investing, and also about tech and things like that, tech hubs and things like that, and centres which just empower neurodiverse people and the members of the Black community and minorities, POC, and whatnot. And also, I'd love to support, as I said, I'd love to support Native Americans and members of the Black community, minorities, and any other disadvantaged group and the poor around the world. But for this month, especially neurodivergent people, neurodivergent, whichever term you want to use. As many people say, it sounds like superpower. Or at least a few people say that. But and Native Americans and the Black community to compensate them for use of the term. People using the term the N-word and things like that, and going through slavery and colonization and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd love to collect, and maybe the Celtic Foundation could help with those sorts of things. Moving on, number 27. As I say, I hope the more the club does for charity and good causes around the world, the more the club will benefit. Hopefully FIFA will benefit the club, FIFA and UEFA, and enable the club to have more access to funds, which I would dream for Italian teams and Celtic, and to get all possible legal forms of investment, sponsorship, and general funding and money to benefit the club. I have to say, like, in return for promoting the image of the beautiful game, making the beautiful game more beautiful. So if Italian teams and Celtic do that, and like challenge racism through football, that kind of thing, soccer, or whatever you put it, and just generally doing good things like fundraising for medical care, fundraising for healthcare, education, teaching, training, helping the homeless, and all sorts of great things. Hopefully the club will be rewarded through supporting us, and also increasing the support base, and also I'd love for the club to be tax exempt as a reward, and also for FIFA and UEFA to give more access to funding, either themselves and to encourage others to invest in the club and that kind of thing. Number 28, I hope the club can turn negative situations into positives. I mentioned a really bad and embarrassing thing in our history, which is a big blight on the club. Not just a bit of a blight, but a big blight on the club, which is the abuse scandal, the child abuse scandal that happened. Not sure when it happened. I think it was in the 80s or 90s or something like that. Unfortunately, whenever it was, obviously unfortunate. But I hope lessons will be learned, which I'm hoping they have been learned. And I know the club says it formed a safeguarding thing, and I think the club should give back to victims of abuse, and maybe even help not just those who have been abused when they were at the boys' club, which was part of the academy or whatever, or connected to the academy or whatever, but also to victims of abuse more generally, and to all possible disadvantaged people and groups and organisations, helping Jamaica at this moment in time, and things like that. Number 29, I'd love to see what neurodivergent people can do for Celtic. As I said before, I'd love to see neurodivergent millionaires and billionaires and even trillionaires maybe in the future, helping the club to raise billions, if not trillions. I think that'd be amazing. Similar with what I'd want for Italian teams. And also I'd love to see what my fellow mutts, mixed race people like Anglo-Indians and other Eurasians and mixed race people generally, and POC minorities and whatnot could do to benefit the club. I'm just trying to think if there's any other group I'm thinking of. The connection with Italian soccer as well, and that kind of thing. I'm thinking of things that are sort of connected to me, as my birthday is on the 29th of August. So as the 29th of a month, I thought point number 29, I talk about, like, as I'm a mixed race person, I'm, as I say, a neurodivergent and that kind of thing, and a support of Italian soccer or whatever, and that kind of thing. I would say soccer or whatever term you want to use. So yeah, connecting those things. So, as the saying goes, killing two birds with one stone, as I often say. And number 30, I talked about my fears for the club, and like, heaven forbid, imagining the worst, like if we got relegated, if we got point deductions, if Rangers won the league, heaven forbid, and things like that. Or Rangers went back ahead of us, heaven forbid. And those are some of the worst things. And I thought, getting back to some of the best situations, and obviously they're the nightmare versions of what. So in other words, what I wouldn't want to happen, but what I would want to happen is for us to win things, and also, as I say, to do lots of good things for good causes. So whilst winning trophies, developing the youth and that kind of thing, and all those good things, most importantly winning trophies, I also hope we can do a lot of good for good causes, for charities and things like that. And on that note, hopefully positive note even, I'm out, and peace and love.